And welcome to another exciting episode of the Click Nation's Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Tim D-O-double-G. And I'm joined tonight by Agent_70 on Twitter.
What's up, what's up?
And we also have at PCN_Dirt on Twitter. AKA Stud Monkey.
Stud Monkey.
Yeah, that's what it says. If you're watching on the video, you can see his name down at the bottom of the screen.
You can also see this messy wall of boxes behind me I need to do something with.
Wow. That's a lot.
Hey, at least there's a comic book box in there, or two, or five.
Yeah, there's some behind these toys too.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I see the long boxes.
Just kind of one of those times right now where I was moving stuff around and I didn't get done in time. And stupid video podcast.
Yeah, man.
If this was audio, it wouldn't make a difference.
It'll be uploaded to audio form in about 2 or 3 days. But I want to thank everyone for tuning into the Comic Book Chronicles tonight. You can go to the website theclicknation.com to find all the previous episodes, find comic book reviews, and other goodies. Make sure to follow the Twitter account at theclicknation. Like the Facebook fan page, facebook.com/theclicknation. Let's see. Circle us on Google, just Google Plus, search for The Click Nation, and also join the community, just search for The Click Nation Community. Subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. YouTube.com/TheClickNation. And if you ever have any feedback you want to have read on future shows, send that on over to the email address theclicknation@gmail.com. And also go to Dirt's website, popculturenetwork.com. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of books, of course, came out this week, but
Big week.
Before we get to books, of course, we always talk about the news for the week. I don't have too much, but just a few things to touch upon. The first thing I had up was Valiant's launching Unity #1, which is this will be a book coming out in a couple months, I believe, in the fall, and it's their version of the Avengers or Justice League, where a couple of the big characters in the Valiant universe join together to stop Itzo Man-O-War from trying to take over Romania. And it includes Toyo Harada, I think that's his name.
Let him have Romania. What's the big deal? I don't get it.
Toyo Harada and a female named Livewire, who I'm not familiar with, and Ninjak, and the Eternal Warrior. So that looks kind of interesting, especially since I'm reading more Valiant books now.
Just throw them all together, see what sticks.
Yeah, especially like Toyo Harada is sort of pulling the strings and getting the group together, and of course it's one of those, we don't like each other, but we have to band together to stop this one person we all don't like, sort of things.
The enemy of my enemy, right?
Yep.
Well, if this gets people to pick up Valiant books, then by all means, if you're looking for, superhero action that's some sort of, that somehow differentiates itself from the big two, by all means, give these Valiant books a try.
Ah.
Ah.
Yeah, right. I'm just like, yeah, well, give it a shot. That's, I'm trying to help out Valiant here. Not that I'm reading it, but
I am.
What are you gonna
I'm
do?
not either.
I'm reading certain books.
When it launched, just none of them. I think the only one that I actually kind of cared for was Itzo Man-O-War, but even then, it felt so much like the old series. It just made me want to read the old series.
I forgot you were
Long time ago, I read Valiant. Back in the day, as they say. But without Solar and without Magnus, without Turok, I mean, those were key characters for me, and so without those, it's just it feels like the B list, running the show.
Cool. So yes, form your own opinions out there, people. The next story I have up is referring to a post I put up on the website talking about Russell Simmons to launch Harlem's first black superhero, the Harlem Shadow, into a YouTube series. And shout outs to William Bruce West, who forwarded me the information on this. Go to his website, williambrucewest.com, and follow him on Twitter at William B. West. So, The Harlem Shadow is a film noir animated series about a mass vigilante who fights crime in the seedy New York underworld during the famed Harlem Renaissance. And it's going to be launched on a brand new YouTube network called All Def Digital, or ADD. And it's going to be showing new content by the end of the year. So that's kind of interesting. Something to look forward to.
Did you notice that D from Run DMC, what's his name? Daryl.
Yeah, he's got a Kickstarter,
Darryl
right?
McDaniels, yes.
Yeah.
I was just about to mention that since we're talking about the world of hip hop crossing over into comics.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about the Russell Simmons one, but I saw that one from.
Yeah, I should put that on the list because someone sent me that info, or someone sent me a link to that. I think last week. Kind of looked interesting. I need to. I like they actually had that Run the Daryl one, that Kickstarter. It actually has talent that I had heard of before.
Yeah, I noticed there were lots of recognizable names that had kind of gotten involved with it. So I'm
sure,
kind of
Damian Scott, Dexter Vines, and Chris Sotomayor. There's definitely some professional. Right, and Damian Scott, Classic Materia. Classic Materia clued me in that Damian Scott was at the New York Comic Con when we last visited, and I missed him. He actually drew and helped write how to draw hip hop characters. It's a how-to book in the style of how to draw the Marvel way, and he's apparently doing the character designs and the pencil work on the DMC book. Dexter Vines is a prominent inker. He's done a lot of Marvel work and DC work that we'll recognize. And Chris Sotomayor is definitely one of the mainstream colorists. So this is definitely going to be a very professionally done book. And what I appreciate about this is that there are real prominent names attached to this. Unfortunately, some of the previous entrances into the comic book world by hip hop artists, the art was pretty lackluster. The Public Enemy comics come to mind, and there's a couple of other ones that just were not very attractive looking. And if these books look as good as and have decent stories, they may very well be successful. So I hope hope DMC's successful with this.
Yeah, I was going to say KRS-One had one that was mildly successful in the mid '90s, and it had decent artwork, but the story it was just kind of there. Like, it didn't really do anything. It didn't really go anywhere. It was, I don't know. And the gimmick with that one is it came packaged with an audio cassette.
Oh.
Pre-CD days. Came with a cassette we could listen to that had, exclusive tracks on it. So that probably helped. But, music artists getting involved in comics is really kind of taken off the last couple of years. Coldplay is doing a book. There's a guy...
we all remember the Kiss comics.
Well, yeah, but... there's a Polarity right now going on from, I think, through
Boom?
Image.
Oh, is that... Yeah, Image, okay.
Image.
Yeah. Well, it might be Boom, I don't know. But yeah, it's just kind of starting to turn into that thing. Oh, the guy from Rage Against the Machine was doing the book with IDW. Orchid. I can't think of his name, but that was the book. It's just kind of turning into one of those things where the music community is starting to see comics as being just another way of expressing yourself and another way of telling a story, and it's
And a lot of them grew up as fans as well, with the
Yeah.
increased vision, the increased exposure of comics to to the mainstream.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's only natural.
Billy Corgan was a wrestling fan, so now he books an indie promotion up around Chicago. He went that way, and other guys are starting to turn towards comics. It's just kind of funny how they move into different areas, kind of do stuff.
I wish I had remember where I read this from, but it was dealing with the same subject. Whoever it was said how hip hop artists they always embrace comics, but comics don't necessarily embrace the hip hop artists, which was a good point because that's pretty much true. It seems to be because like the Wu-Tang Clan always make the comic book references in their songs, but as far as the artists trying to jump into comics, like you both said a second ago, it's been the mixed results.
Well, it just kind of depends on what they're good at. I mean, if you're good at breaking down a story, then you can make that transition. But just because you like something doesn't mean you should be doing it. There's a lot of music I like, but if you ever hear me sing, you know that it's not something I should ever be involved in. Ever.
Cool.
Yeah, I just hope that they come up with good stories and good art, because if a really good comic isn't much without one or the other.
Hear, hear. Next story is, round of applause for that. Gerry Duggan will be taking over writing duties on Nova in November. So.
Right, that's something scheduled, right?
Yeah,
it's nothing sudden.
Yeah, it's this is just an announcement because it's planned. Because I guess Zeb Wells will be on for like 4 or 5 issues doing his arc. And once he's done in November, that's when Gerry Duggan will be taking over, and Paco Medina will still stay on as artist, so that's a good thing.
Is Duggan the guy who was writing Deadpool?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Any of you reading Deadpool?
I was. It was good. It just it's not high on my list of reads. We read it for academic review purposes, so I keep up with it, but it's not on my pull list anymore.
It's one of those books that I enjoy reading, but I usually tend to wait until there's like a full arc. I'm not excited enough that I have to read it when it comes out, but usually when I sit down to read it, I enjoy it. So I just wait for, a trade or for the arc to be done or something like that.
And I'm going to save one story for last, but shout outs to @DorkGeekus on Twitter for sending me 2 more news articles that one I wasn't aware of, and the other one I had, and I just didn't jot it down. But the first one is apparently Kevin Maguire is off of the Justice League 3000 series before it even
this is very sudden.
And I'm sitting here reading the link he sent, and I'm trying to figure out, is the book sounds like it might be scrapped completely, at least for the time being. So I guess Kevin Maguire on today at 2:11 p.m. tweeted, I think I was just fired, which of course got people in a tizzy. And I'm reading this from multiversitycomics.com. Actually, let me find a good point to start reading. You get the impression that maybe something about the book didn't seem marketable enough. I'd have guessed the Justice League brand would have done just fine, but Maguire, DeMatteis, and Giffen are classic comics of the DC variety. Blah blah blah.
Well, okay. Basically, their attempt was to retool the Legion of Superheroes, and they were going to turn Legion of Superheroes into Justice League 3000.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
So
okay,
Justice League in the future, and whatever ideas he had and whatever concepts he was working on, apparently DC just said, no, this isn't the right direction. Kevin Maguire posted something on Facebook that just basically said, DC has offered me other work, so it's not like I'm being fired from DC. Mm-hmm. It's just that this particular project is not going to go forward and they're gonna retool it and send it to somebody else and just see if somebody else can make it work. So it's just kind of one of those things where they're taking a property and they're trying to relaunch it in a way that gets people interested, and they just whatever he had just wasn't what they were looking for, and that's all it really was.
So is the whole book done, or is it just?
I don't know. I mean, he posted something on Facebook that just said, after a few confusing hours, I kind of know where things stand and why. I'm still a bit perplexed as to how it got to this point. As for work, I've been offered some fun, interesting stuff, many of which came from DC, who are very eager to keep me working there, so I'll be fine on that score. So, it's not any hard feelings. It's not, he's never allowed back in the door or anything like that. It's just this project is wiped off the slate, and they're just going to get a different writer, different artist. They're going to try a different direction on it.
Okay. I mean, I'd only caught a little bit of this news during the day, and the initial tweet. So I'm glad that there's been some follow up on it that you just recapped for us, Stud Monkey. Yeah, it's kind of disappointing that McGuire is not going to be working with his old Justice League International cohort.
Well, they still might, but with something else.
Right.
I mean, maybe they'll do some other project, in some other part of the DC universe. It's just this reimagining the Legion of Superheroes is not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, because it's not like they know that the Justice League 3000 book will make money, or anything with Justice League, and it should make money, so it's not like they're just scrapping the whole thing, just, I guess, reworking it. But yeah, so I was looking forward to that book, so that kind of sucks. But instead, I'm getting my DC future fits from the Batman Beyond universe now, so.
Okay.
Which came out last week digitally, Batman Beyond 2.0, #1, which was great. Fun book.
Awesome.
Yeah, so people should check that out. It's 99 cents on Comixology.
Okay.
And I guess the other story that Dork Geek has sent to our attention was the fans' reaction to the, I guess, Kick-Ass 2 comic from Mark Millar. I actually read an article on Comic Book Resources about it yesterday, how they read it and they were like, "Yep, this isn't for me. There's too much violence, too much homophobia, too much women being just being objects and not being used as objects and not actual people. This is a book for teenage boys, written for teenage boys, and that's it." And it's basically sort of asking the question like, that's fine and good to have a book that's all it panders to, but shouldn't a writer like Mark Millar, who's famous and holds a lot of weight, shouldn't they write things that stand for more than that?
Not if that's not the story they want to tell.
Yeah,
that
was kind of my take from it. It's like that's the story he decided to tell. So I mean, every story doesn't. I used to get mad about this with TV shows. I'm going to name one in particular I used to hate. I think it was called The Parenthood, not the NBC one that's on now, but it was like Parent_Hood. It came on the old CW network, or whatever it was called back in the day.
WB?
Yeah,
WB?
Yeah, whichever version of the network it was back then. It had
back when they were doing Homeboys in Space.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I forget the actor, the main dad on it, but it was basically every episode was like on a very special parenthood. This kid is like almost addicted to drugs. They're talking out of it. Next week on a very special parenthood, there's violence at the school. It's like I'm not trying to learn lessons watching a comedy show. What's supposed to be a comedy. It's fine. It's fine and good to have it. Maybe have one episode like that a season, but I don't need to see it every episode.
Where is this article on CBR? Was it like a review of Kick-Ass 2?
It wasn't a
Kick-Ass 3 #1.
It was like one of. It was a like a. It wasn't
An
a
editorial.
Yeah, like an editorial thing on it. I saw it last night. Who knows if it's still up there? I always have issues referencing links that I save on comic book resources. Click on it again, it's like, oh, article not found. 404 error. Like, what the hell? Let me see what Dork Geekus is saying while you look for that. Oh, he says, isn't Legion of Superheroes an occasional hard sell like Doom Patrol? I'd
Yes.
assume so.
Yes, it's been a hard sell for years.
We were talking about Doom Patrol on Twitter earlier this morning. He said they were, now back to Kick-Ass 2, he said they were also upset his reaction to the rape question. Oh yeah, Robert Townsend, was the dad on the Parenthood, apostrophe hood. Yeah, that annoyed me. Did you didn't find the article, did you? Yeah, it's not important. But that was the one person's feelings on Kick-Ass 2. And let's see other stories.
Oh, Kick-Ass 2, the movie. Oh, it was a movie review.
Not the movie, it's about the comic book.
Oh, it is about the comic book. Okay.
Yeah, because the movie hasn't come out yet.
I gotcha. But I just did a quick Google search, and I guess Mark Millar made some comments. I guess at San Diego.
Is that the thing?
That involved the use of rape in comics, and I guess he caught some flack, and I'm not even going to click on it because I'm sure it's just going to open up another can of worms.
I was gonna say I'm sure that ended well.
Well, right. Exactly. Was that the last bit of news?
No, my next one, I'm gonna read the headline and then kick it off to Dirt to explain for me because I didn't understand it originally. So DC 3D covers sell out and will be allocated. 2D and digital versions available for $1 less. What does all this mean?
Explain, Lucy, explain.
So basically, as part of the whole Villains Forever storyline, or Forever Evil, I guess, storyline, they're doing Villains Month, for DC. One of the things they're doing is all the books basically are going away for a month, and they're being replaced by villains. And the way they're doing this is they're taking key books like Justice League, Batman, Superman, whatever, and they're going to release a bunch of .1 issues, and they're going to fill up the entire month with villain-specific issues. So, for instance, you're going to get Justice League 23.1, and then it'll be Darkseid. You're going to get Doomsday. You're going to get whoever, and it'll go through all these different villains of the DC universe. And so, in order to make it special, beyond that, they have these 3D lenticular covers that are going to be on all the issues. So as you rotate it, they have a little bit of motion, looks kind of 3D, whatever, and they were all going to be $3.99. So it was kind of a hassle for stores. It was kind of a pain in the butt to try to figure out, we have people that read Justice League, but they're not going to want all of the Justice League .1s of all these different villains. People may like certain characters, they don't like other characters. People may buy a Lobo book just because it has Lobo on it who never read Justice League, and there are other people who read Justice League that don't want to touch a book that has Lobo on it, So it was this nightmare for ordering, and a lot of retailers were unsure of what to order. So when you order your comics, you basically have two deadlines in which to order. You've got your initial order, and a lot of them put one copy as the initial order. And then you've got a second window called the final order cutoff, or the FOC. And basically what it is you get in your main order, and that gives them the idea of how many copies they need to print, because they want to cover everybody, and then they've got whatever extras for newsstands and whatever. And then for final order cutoff, that is like the absolute last date that you can change that so that they can bump it up or drop it down a little to try to get things to even out. Well, apparently the problem was that when DC was looking at how long it takes to actually make 50-some issues with these special covers on them, they said, we don't have time to wait for the final order cutoff. So they looked at the initial order numbers and added a certain percentage, did whatever, magic to figure out how many they wanted to order, and sent that off to the printers because they had to get done in time. Well, the problem was a lot of these people had said one copy and then waited for the final order cutoff to actually adjust how many they wanted after talking to customers and seeing how people were reacting online and that kind of stuff. So when the numbers actually came in for the final order cutoff day, they were way higher than they had been for the initial order. So suddenly, DC has orders way above and beyond what they had actually submitted to the printers to print so that they would have time to print them. So now they realize that a whole bunch more people want these books than had been available. So in order to make these books available, they've decided to make a second print run without that 3D cover on it. And it'll just be a regular, comic, and it's going to be $2.99 instead of $3.99. And so then when they release the digital copy always matches the cheaper price. Like if there's a combo pack or an anniversary special or a collector's cover or whatever, the digital always matches the cheaper price. So they're going to make the digital copy match the $2.99 price instead of the $3.99 price like they had thought. But what this means to the average person wanting to get those 3D covers is your store is not going to get the number that they ordered on the final order cutoff day. What DC is going to attempt to do is go through the orders and every store look at their average for the last 3 months of the books and try to fulfill that number for each store, and then whatever remainder there is, then they'll go through whatever random percentages and bump it up and give you a couple extra copies. So certain places like Midtown Comics in New York, they probably ordered, an extra 50%. If they normally order 300, they may have ordered 500 because it's a special cover. Well, they'll probably get their 300, but anything above that, there's no guarantee on. For a store like us, we didn't really know what to order because it's so random with the different characters and everything, and whatever. We'll get basically enough to give it to our subscribers that it'll match the last 3 months worth of books. But anyone who comes into our store today and says, hey, I need a copy of that book when it comes out next month, can you save one for me? We got to tell them, I don't know if we can. We'll put you on the list and we'll just have to see what we got. For stores that just kind of randomly order, they don't do a pull list, they don't do any sort of subscription service, their numbers are just going to be way up in the air, and who knows what they get in if they don't have some sort of consistent number. So I mean, a lot of these the books are just gonna be much harder to find because they just didn't realize how much of a demand there was going to be because so many people were trying to play the game and mess with the numbers, and it just kind of backfired on everybody. The one thing that they did announce is that they will make a complete set of the 3D covers available in December in a box set. It'd be like $120 or something like that if you want to get all the issues with the 3D covers, and that'll be a special print run done for those collectors' boxes. So that'll be considered a different print run. If you want to consider that a second print or a third print or just a, they may call it like the alpha print or whatever like that. But the 3D covers that you're going to get and that batch of 2D covers that they're going to use to try to pad the orders and give people their numbers, those are going to be considered first prints. And then, who knows how many times it may be reprinted after that. But I mean, it's a big confusing mess, and it's something that it does happen quite a bit. A lot of companies struggle with this. Image kind of had this issue they ran into last year, and they said, we're not going to do any more reprints. We're sick of dealing with this. And then they had to back off from that. As retailers trying to figure out numbers on orders, when they do some sort of gimmick month like this, it's almost impossible to tell what you should actually order and how many people are actually going to be interested in this stuff until like the week beforehand, and then it's way too late to do anything about it. And that's one of the problems that's really kind of indicative of this market, is that it's if you want to order a DVD, you go into Best Buy, and Best Buy has 100,000 copies. Because after 3-4 months, if they don't sell, they can send them back to the distributor, and they get pulped and recycled and made into new DVDs. That doesn't happen with comics on the direct market. That only happens on the newsstand. So one of the problems with that direct market is they have to get those orders done way in advance so they can be printed just for those numbers and sent out to the stores, which makes them collectible. That's where you get that collectible market from, but then also creates a headache. And for a lot of the random people that walk in, they go, hey, I heard there was something big going on. It's like, yep, and we're all sold out. Sucks to be you. So that's what I can tell you about that.
Okay, that all makes sense, and it brought up 2 points or 2 questions I had. First, it's sort of, I'm sure it is true that they had to cut it off at the first whatever deadline because they didn't realize how long.
Orders.
Yeah, the initial orders, because they weren't sure how long it was going to take to print these 3D covers. But also sort of sounds like a way of saying like, oh, these comics are going to be so rare, so now to be this rare thing that people can try to scrounge on eBay for and whatnot. And
it's kind of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand you have to make some sort of announcement and let people know that if you were hoping to just walk into your local comic book shop on the day they come out, you're probably not going to be able to get them. They have to at least make that known, so on that day people aren't walking in, setting the place on fire. Why can't I get a copy of this comic? Because as we know, comic nerds get that way.
Yes.
But then on the other hand, as soon as they do that and make that announcement, then suddenly all the speculators and all the guys who bought all the Image #1s and the polybagged gold cover Spider-Man #1s and all of those guys suddenly jump on it and are going to try to hoard all of them. So I mean, it's like on the one hand you have to say something, at least let people know what's going on, but then as soon as you do kind of create this other beast out of the whole thing.
And the next question I had is, you were saying how someone comes in and asks, do you have this book, and you of course say no, we're all sold out. So basically, what is this what you're gonna do with the 3D orders? You have them saved for whoever actually has them on their pull list. You're gonna put them to the side. You're not even gonna all comic book stores have the rack of new new comics. So you're not even gonna put any of those out there to sell.
Well, we have a subscriber base. We have behind the counter, we've got short boxes. Yeah, we got pull lists. So people tell us, what books they want every month, and we set those aside for them. We bag and board them and set them in a short box, and they can come in and pick them up and get a discount. So what we'll do is if we have, say 20, say there's 20 people that normally get Justice League. Okay, we'll just throw out a number, 20. If we get 25 copies, then 20 of them will be set aside, and those extra 5 can go out on the shelf. But if we only get, say, 16 copies, then we'll give out the 16 to the people who've had it the longest, and the people who've added it later, then they can get one of the 2D covers. And then and we'll tell them, if someone else decides that they don't want it, they pick one up and they're like, Detective Comics Ventriloquist. I don't want Ventriloquist. Who wants take it back. If someone else wants it, then it can go to the subscriber, to fill in their box. But like I said, it's one of those big hassles because, again, people who read Detective are not necessarily going to want Ventriloquist. Like, everyone's going to want Joker. I mean, that's a given. Everyone's going to want Two-Face. But some of those other characters, it's just like we don't really know how much to order because there are a lot of people that get Deadpool, but they don't want Deadpool Kills Deadpool because it's a miniseries. They get Daredevil, but they don't want Daredevil Dark Knights because it's a miniseries. So you always have to try to find this balance of what to order, and these gimmick months are kind of a problem with that. And so that's probably another issue that people had when they placed their orders. Because they'd look at something and they go, well, Joker's a big character, we're going to order a whole bunch. But some of these other characters, they would talk to their customers just like, are you interested in any of these? Do you want some of these? And they're waiting for some of that feedback, before they actually did their final orders. And so I mean, it's just these gimmick months are just torture.
Okay, that makes sense now. Thanks for explaining it.
And I'm out.
And that was the last bit of news I had.
I just have one bit of news for all the creator rights advocates and all the lawyers out there who are listening. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals, based in Manhattan, denied an appeal by Jack Kirby's heirs of district court ruling about 2 years ago that basically denied all of their claims to characters from the Marvel characters that Jack Kirby helped create, like the FF and the Hulk and the X-Men. The estate and these heirs were seeking to terminate the copyrights of both Marvel and the licensees, Sony, Fox, and Universal, the movie licensees. In a 57-page ruling, as reported by CBR and other sources, the court states that the district court correctly determined that the works at issue were made for hire. The bottom line is the heirs have been denied their right to terminate the copyright. However, there's still 2 heirs that are living in California, so the New York court doesn't necessarily have jurisdiction over them. They may pursue their own case in California, so this isn't quite the end of this of the case of Kirby's heirs. This has been such an ongoing thing, especially with the millions and millions being generated by movies, that creator rights is such a big thing, and nowadays it's not even it's fairly commonplace now for comic book creators, writers, and artists to get legal representation and copyright their works and register trademarks so that this stuff doesn't happen, and to obviously not enter into work for hire relationships, because at the end of the day, those corporations own those characters, own the intellectual property. So that's just more news on that front. This is a comic book related podcast, and I'm sure there's aspiring creators out there in the audience. I know there's some on the panel, and this is just some more. This is just actually just a reinforcement, in my opinion, that if you want to do something, do your own creator-owned work, and if you find yourself needing to pay the bills, there's work for hire for you. Just don't expect to be able to have that much say in the work for hire.
Okay. That should about do it for news. So now we get on talking about this week's comics.
Yay!
And let me open up another tab here so I can see what all came out this week. I don't know, at least Boom we're going to start with, I assume, because at least Dirt read some Boom comics.
A couple.
And let's see, Boom had Higher Earth number 9, Planet of the Apes, Cataclysm number 12, ROBOCOP Last Stand number 1 of 8, and Suicide Risk number 4, and Garfield number 16.
Okay,
Which
well,
ones did you read?
My son read Garfield, but I haven't read that one yet.
Okay.
Garfield is one of his favorites, but he's not here right now.
Just as a quick aside, I actually saw, honest to goodness, in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, I honestly saw a big fat orange cat for the very first time. And I literally thought, oh my God, it's Garfield / Heathcliff. And the very first time I've ever seen a big fat orange cat with like a big bushy tail. Very cool.
It's funny because I'll hear people talk about how terrible Garfield is and how, it's like, oh, why are they still making Garfield? That's, awful and blah, 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 whatever. But it's like for my son, who's 8, there are no cliches.
Right.
For him, everything is the first time. So reading a book like Garfield, people always go, oh, it's so unoriginal and whatever, but I mean, that's what he loves. That's his.
It's original to somebody for the first time.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll throw out some props to Garfield. Why not? All right, but I read RoboCop. A little bit different from Garfield. Just a tad different.
You mean this? There's a little bit of drama.
You know, and I have to say, I'm a huge RoboCop fan. They're talking about the new movie, and I hated the movie, but now that I hate the idea of the reboot, but as it gets closer and closer to the reboot actually coming out, I find myself kind of giving in to the hype and kind of getting excited for it. And I was super excited to get this because this is a follow-up to the Frank Miller RoboCop 2. Frank Miller wrote RoboCop 2 as this gigantic story, and then when they actually turned it into the movie, they chopped it out and they cut out big chunks and threw it in a blender. And Avatar a few years ago actually adapted the full RoboCop 2 script, and then this is the follow-up to his version of RoboCop 2. The problem is it's just not very good.
Uh-oh.
It tries to give you a couple of the RoboCop tropes that are kind of common. You get a couple of the commercial parodies. You get the news break anchors kind of talking about what's going on. But for the most part, I hate to say it, but it is, if you took RoboCop 3, that terrible, terrible, terrible movie, and you just made it
They
garbage.
made a RoboCop 3?
Oh, they made a RoboCop 3.
Maybe I'm just choosing to forget it.
You're blocking it out of your mind because there is one part where the British hitman is actually on the phone saying, "I thought your ninjas were supposed to destroy RoboCop," and that's when you go, someone hired ninjas to try to kill RoboCop.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm going back on mute.
But it's the same story. OCP is the overwrought conglomerate. Trying to step on all the little people of Detroit so that they can build Delta City, and they don't care about anyone's personal rights, and the police are gone and they've been replaced by OCP security, and all the security is corrupt, and I'm going to stick with it just in the hopes that it goes somewhere else. But as an initial chapter into it, it's like I've read this, I've seen this story before, and it wasn't good the last time I got it. So I'm hoping that maybe they can do something different with it in the next, couple issues. But if the next couple issues keep playing out exactly the same as this, I don't think I'll be sticking around for all 8 issues of this series.
Yeah, I
There's 8
downloaded
issues to
it.
this? Jeez.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
8
8.
issues. Yeah.
I downloaded it to give it a try. It'll be one of the ones I get to over the weekend, but I guess even with your down review of it, I still at least want to flip through it.
Well, and it's also one of those where it ends. It feels like the issue just kind of ended. Like maybe they wrote this not as an 8-issue series, but as a 400-page story, and they just kind of chopped it here and put a little to be continued at the bottom to make it into a single issue. But it just gets to the issue and it just stops. And there's no cliffhanger. There's no.
It's an awkward pause in the action.
Yeah, it's like a commercial on a soap opera,
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of really bad and awkward, and so again, that's another reason why I didn't particularly care for it. And the artwork is okay; it's serviceable, it gets the job done, but it feels rushed in a couple spots, and it feels kind of sloppy in a couple spots. And I don't know if that's just this guy's style, or if he was particularly running out of time, but it just overall I was not impressed with the issue.
Okay. And that was just the first book you mentioned, right?
Right. I did read Suicide Risk.
Okay.
And I don't know if you guys have been reading this one at all.
Nope.
I had planned on trying to read the first issue when it came out, and it was one of those that got lost in the shuffle.
I really like this series. In a nutshell, there's a police officer in a world of superheroes. You get your superpowers by doing a drug, and when you do the drug, you don't know what type of powers you're going to get, but you just become powered that way. Mm-hmm. And after his partner is put into the hospital by a bunch of supers, he decides to take the drug so that he can get powers and get revenge on the villains. the problem is his powers seem to have this kickback to him, where if he wanted something heavy to be lifted, and he were to manipulate gravity to make this giant thing lift in the air, then at some point in the future, there's going to be a gravity well created near him, and a whole bunch of stuff is going to come crashing down around him. So he has to be careful the way he uses his powers, and that's why the book is called Suicide Risk. Because one, he's fighting supervillains and he could die, but two, because if he uses his powers incorrectly, they can bounce back at him in such a way that could kill him and destroy him. And the way that they've done the series is that it's all been built around that idea of there's that drug on the streets and you get it and you get superpowers. And what you find out in this issue, in issue 4, is that there's this character named Diva who actually worships this ancient goddess, and her powers have actually been coming mystically from this ancient goddess. And this kind of changes the scope of the understanding of how the powers work, because everyone just assumed you take that drug, you got the powers. So now there's something else at work, in this whole setup. And are they getting powers, from these mystical places? Is that why it's manifesting, or are there more of these mystical people and they're just coming out of hiding now that there are superpowers, being manifested? It just kind of changes the scope of the story, and I found that very interesting, the way that they were able to set everything up and then they throw this twist into it, and it really just makes sense, and it makes the story that much better. So,
interesting.
Thumbs up for that one. If you're not reading that, I would recommend it.
Is it a limited series?
I think it was announced that way, but then I looked to see how many issues it is, and I couldn't find the information, so I don't know if that's gone
Maybe
away or.
Okay.
Yeah, I could have swore it had like the first issue said like one of something, but now
I think it was like one of 6, but
they've removed it, at least from the solicit I'm reading here.
Correct.
Yeah, and of course I can't find the old one, so.
And I think I had downloaded Higher Earth #9 just because isn't that Sam Humphrey's book?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
But this is the final issue.
Yeah. So of course that's a good time for me to jump on it.
Right when it ends.
Yep. Which I did with another book. I'll get to later, and I actually enjoyed it. But like I said, get to that in a second. Let's see, Dark Horse. They had some books that I planned on at least one book I planned on reading, but hadn't got to yet. And I know Dork Geekus, he's a fan of the Abe Sapien book. That was number 5 came out. And Catalyst Comics #2, which I thought that was an ongoing series, but now I see it says #2 of 9. I read the first issue, and actually I don't even know if I'm going to read the second issue. It was okay, but I don't know. I didn't like the 3 different stories, and I like the first, the one with the whatever story it is with the guy on the cover. If you're watching the video, the cover that Dirt is showing now. I like that story since he's got powers and whatnot. But I didn't care about there was a woman in a spaceship flying in space doing something, and then the last story was a guy, I guess, that had retired from whatever business he was in, and some people tried to recruit him to come help save the Earth or whatever. But at least I mentioned the books. Anyone else read any Dark Horse? I'm gonna assume no.
No, not here. But I had a quick question for Stud Monkey.
Yo.
I see in the solicits Lone Wolf and Cub Omnibus Volume 2. Is that just a reissue, a reprinting of the mini trade paperbacks that came out some years ago?
Yeah, the omnibus is just basically they take a whole bunch of them and put them in one big thick book, and it's usually cheaper to get the one big thick book. The best example I can think of off the top of my head is with Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy the individual issues, they're $2.99 a piece. They take 6 $2.99 books and put them in a trade for like $12.99.
Right.
But then they also release like a big collection where you can get the first 48 issues for I think $59.95.
Okay.
So it's just they put them in bigger chunks. And I think a lot of times with Dark Horse, when they do an omnibus, they add bonus stuff in the background. I'll have to check on that.
Wait, what's cool? What's cool about this is that just very quickly, I collected the entire Lone Wolf and Cub reissue when they reissued in those little mini trade paperbacks. I bought all 28 volumes. I have them all on a shelf, you know, and they all kind of sit, they all kind of sit there in this weird stacked up way because they're mini little trade paperback books. So these are supposed to be 5 by 7, so they're a little bit more normal sized. Did you guys order any of these? Anyone reading them out your way? Out by your way?
If we order any, that's the type of thing we would order specifically for a customer. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. I'm curious, and I'm gonna have to take a look and see if it's worth rebuying this entire series just because it'll be in a format I can more easily stack.
Yeah, Dark Horse usually sends us their solicit information. A lot of times they send us PDFs of their stuff. We can review them. I'll check. If we don't have any information on that, I'll email their PR guy, and I'll see if I can find some information on that for you.
It's not, you know what, honestly, I don't want you to go to any trouble.
Well, no,
I was just curious about the size and what's actually involved in this reprint because...
I'm just checking my email.
Gotcha.
Which I don't do often enough.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate it. All right, so that's it for Dark Horse, I believe.
Yep. Dark Horse. Oh, and Dork Geeka says he says he read both issues of, I'm assuming he's talking about Catalyst Comics, and he said he liked the last story with the pro wrestler with the armor.
Okay.
So that, yeah, I guess that the guy was a wrestler who's saving the world or something. Let's see. So DC. I'll run down the list of books in alphabetical order. You can chime in if you read them or have any comments to include. Action Comics number 23.
Yep.
What you got?
I enjoyed this a whole lot more than I thought I would.
Is that a Transformer on the cover?
Not quite. The easiest way to describe this is basically the Guardians of the Galaxy show up on the moon and convince Superman that he has to stop Thanos. Or I'm not Thanos, Galactus.
Yeah.
That's basically the story.
So who's the DC version of the Guardians of the Galaxy?
There's a green woman. She's like their
an anthropomorphic animal, right?
No. There's a big burly guy who likes to fight. There's a skinny blue guy who's very kind of reserved, but kind of has some sort of cosmic power. There's another one. I don't remember who the fourth one is, but they said that they started with a crew of several hundred, and now they're down to 4. They've been fighting this guy, and basically this guy is a devourer of planets who's going through the universe, just eating planet after planet after planet. And so, I mean, it's very like there are enough, subtle changes that it's not exactly. Galactus. It's not exactly the Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's, definitely what they were doing.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right?
They poke a little fun at it, And one of the things, though...
It is Lobdell, after all. He was, a Marvel scribe for so long.
Yeah. But one of the things that I actually enjoyed about this is he actually kills this Galactus character. And there's even... They're kind of poking fun at Man of Steel and all the people freaking out about Man of Steel and Superman killing Zod and everything. Mm-hmm. At one point, it says something about how, Superman in the inner, monologue in his head that sometimes when you're, this powerful and you have this much responsibility, you have to transcend concepts like murder. And he just totally wastes this guy and destroys him, kills him, and... maybe because of the way it was operating on that fourth wall type level is why I enjoyed it so much. If I didn't know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy or Galactus or the Man of Steel movie, I might not have cared. But I mean, as an avid comic reader, there's a whole wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing going on in this book, and I just enjoyed the hell out of it.
Nice. So There's your
I may have to take a look at that this week.
there's your endorsement for a Superman book. Let's see. Next up is Batwing number 23, which I read. It was another good issue
Damn, I read this.
by Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti, and congrats to him getting married to Amanda Connor a couple of days ago. In this issue, Batwing and Batman help rescue Batwing's father, Lucius Fox, from the Marutabu, whoever, Marabunta, whoever. That doesn't really matter because it basically just leads up to this Lady Vic assassin coming to Gotham and being hired by some unknown person.
Did they actually give her a name? She has a name?
I don't think they name her. Well, they might name her in the book. I can't remember. I just know from the solicits and reading the preview that she's supposed to be Lady Vic.
We're supposed to recognize her?
No, she mentions that she's Lady Vic.
Oh, okay. I'm looking for it because I've read it and I don't remember seeing. Oh, I see it. She says right here, Lady Vic doesn't do terror. I gotcha.
Yeah. So it's, I wonder who the mystery hirer is.
I will have to say that I was kind of let down a little bit by the whole subplot where he goes back home and his dad's okay, but people looted his house and he wasn't there and he was supposed to be, and I know that's kind of
lame.
That's one of those tropes of the Batman books is that Bruce Wayne's the playboy, he's never there to fulfill his responsibilities, so this is kind of following in that same footstep, but I don't think that works as well with this character because Luke Fox is not a playboy. He's not super irresponsible.
He's irresponsible because he's an MMA fighter and he's not working at Wayne
well, I mean,
whatever.
He's definitely more the Spider-Man of the Batman.
MMA fighters are meatheads. I mean, let's be fair. Now I'm gonna get beat up.
Yeah, I did like the please don't be dead, please don't be dead, please don't be dead. Yes, he's not dead. Yes, he's not dead. Yes, he's not dead.
See, but not in my opinion, he's the Spider-Man of the Batman family, where he's supposed to have these outside responsibilities, and when he's Batwing, it sort of takes away from it. So, that I think that's sort of one of the tropes, one of the story mechanisms that they're trying to use here. I think, especially with him being young, and still inexperienced at life. Forget being Batwoman.
Okay, but yeah, I'm still enjoying the series. So, shout outs to Batwing number 23.
Okay.
Detective Comics number 23.
I enjoyed this one as well.
I enjoyed it. There was one thing. There's one thing I found odd with it, and it was the whole Caldwell, whatever his first name, Edie Caldwell, who may or may not be Wrath. When Caldwell and Bruce were doing the little sparring session or whatever, so Bruce is just gonna flip a guy. Even though he pretty much thinks he's Caldwell, he's just gonna flip him off the ledge of a skyscraper. He's just gonna flip him off.
That's not the end of the issue. This is just this is not even something major. It's just I'm gonna shoulder toss you over this, and then who spars on a roof anyway? And then
rich people. This is a 1% thing.
And then he just just randomly. Let me just randomly toss a person over a ledge and assume he'll be able to catch himself.
And that was probably part of the test. It's like he knows that he must be the guy. And the one thing that I thought was kind of interesting though is that you assume that he's got to be Wrath. Because he walks out of the room, and 2 minutes later, Wrath walks into the room with Alfred. So it's like, obviously he's leaving to go check on Alfred, and so he's got to put on the suit and go there. But I almost feel like they might be playing a game like there might be a spoiler to, there might be not a spoiler, but there might be like a twist to it, and it almost feels like they might fall victim to like Vince Russo booking, where they're going to put this twist that doesn't need to be there. I like the idea of another guy. This is the anti-Batman. This is, another billionaire, another guy who's getting off with all this technology and doing his own form of vigilantism, and he's got this secret identity, and he's got his own bat cave more or less in the middle of his building. He's got this armory that he's built, and I think there's a neat play between the two characters, but I'm almost afraid that because
it's Mr. Waters, ding ding ding,
like you still haven't seen Wrath take off the mask and it's Caldwell, and you haven't seen Caldwell put on the suit and become Wrath, so I'm almost afraid that they're going to spoil it by having some random twist. It's actually his twin sister, or
Mr.
something
Waters.
like that. It's the butler did it.
Yeah,
because Mrs. Waters gets knocked out, spoilers, and Mr. Waters is nowhere to be seen, so.
But I mean, I enjoy like the first chapter of this story with Wrath. I didn't really care for, but it was more about the other guy. I forget the other guy's name. The dude he picks up off the street and gives an outfit and makes him his little Scorn. Yeah, I didn't really care about Scorn, so I read the first part of the story and I was like, whatever. And then I read the annual for Detective, and I really enjoyed the annual. And the annual was set up with a couple different stories